My friends, I can imagine a scene in which the disciples of Jesus were engaged in intimate conversation, and one of them opened up their heart and told of a personal struggle. Probably they were uneasy at first, admitting their struggle and risking ridicule with their peers. So finally, Jesus puts them all at ease and told them the story of his own struggle and temptations. Personally, I find great comfort in that experience because it offers me strength in my own struggles with temptation. And there's several key thoughts in today's gospel that suggest that to me. First, everyone must face and deal with temptation. Now, this is not really an easy thing to understand, especially when we think about certain people, especially those we tend to idealize or place on a pedestal. We seem to think that true greatness exempts one from the problems of plain people like you and me. But the fact is that the opposite is true. Great strength and character always carry with it a greater burden of temptation. Listen to what the tempter said. "Bow before me, and all this will be yours." Now, none of us ever has to wrestle with a temptation quite like that. But in simple ways, we give in to that temptation. The shoplifter is tempted to steal a wristwatch or a piece of jewelry, while the shrewd executive may be tempted to steal the entire store. If our Lord had to struggle with his own temptations, you can be certain that no one is exempt. Next, be assured that temptation in and of itself is not sinful. Remember that the New Testament said of Jesus that he was tempted in all ways that we are, but he never sinned. Temptation is really a common human experience, but it does not become sin until one gives into it and goes along with it. Now, recognizing that temptation is often deceptively subtle can also strengthen us. Now, evil does not always present itself in the form of a grotesque creature with horns and hooves and a pitchfork. St. Paul even said, Satan himself can be transformed into an angel of light. You know, Jesus was tempted to use his power to provide bread. Now, what could possibly be wrong with that? Surely it was a good thing to provide bread for those who were hungry. But Jesus saw through that temptation. He recognized that we do not live on bread alone. He realized that a full stomach and fullness of life are not one and the same thing. Temptation will come to you and me in the same subtle ways. And dishonesty will guise itself as shrewd business dealings. Sexual infidelity will call itself free love. Gossip can be passed along under the pretense of prayerful concern for a friend. And a nasty temper can always be an excuse for an ethnic weakness, or better yet, camouflage as righteous indignation. Don't look for the serpent slithering in the ground or the devil with horns. Evil comes to us in reasonable and subtle ways. Finally, I think we can learn and find strength by sharing one another's struggles with temptation. You know, Jesus shared his struggle to give us strength in knowing that he too was tempted. Maybe he's trying to teach us that it's okay to be human. You know, the church is not for those who have an easy way of life or those who are without struggle or temptation. The church is for those who need the grace of God. If we would but share our common griefs and move behind our masks, then we can draw an incredible power from God and from one another. And we can ultimately win a victory just as Jesus did. There is an available source of power which God offered to Jesus for the living of his life, for the struggle with his temptations, and ultimately the facing of his death. That same energy is available to you and to me. The question is not, will I be tempted? The question is, will I draw from the deep wells of resource that are mine in my relationship with God to face the temptation? Together now let us profess the faith that we all share. I believe in one God, the Father,